जी बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। आप सुन रहे हैं FM 99 गिलगित बल्तिस्तान स्कर्दू स्टूडियो की आवाज़। मोहम्मद अली अंजुम आपसे मुखातिब हैं। दोस्तों, आज के प्रोग्राम की ख़ास बात यह है कि आज हमने अपने प्रोग्राम में खुसूसी तौर पर एक मशहूर कोह पैमा को अपने प्रोग्राम में मदऊ किया है। आप यहाँ स्कर्दू आई हैं क्लाइंबिंग के सिलसिले में और साथ साथ स्कर्दू की तहजीब और सकाफत से काफ़ी मुतासिर हैं। हमने सोचा कि इन्हें अपने प्रोग्राम में मदऊ करें और अपने तमाम लिसनर्स तक इनका पैगाम पहुँचा दें। आल्दो बहुत ज़्यादा सोशल खातून है। आज मेरे साथ पैनल पर मेरा साथ देंगे आशिक हुसैन, मशहूर समाजी वर्कर हैं और ताल्लुकात इनके बहुत ज़्यादा हैं मुख्तलिफ फॉरनर्स से और फॉरनर इश्यूज़ को देखते हैं। आशिक, सबसे पहले आपको खुश आमदीद कहूँगा।
थैंक यू। मेरा रोल एज ए इंटरप्रेटर होगा और मैं जो चीज़ें आप उर्दू में बताएंगे मैं इसको इंटरप्रेट कर रहा हूँगा। ठीक है जी,
बहुत शुक्रिया। आशिक मेरी मावनत करेंगे आज के इंटरव्यू में और जो बात मैं करूँगा बराह रास्त हमारी जो मेहमान हैं उन तक मैं पहुँचा दूँगा। मैं कोशिश करता हूँ उर्दू में थोड़ी सी इनसे बात करूँ। आशिक साहब, अगर आपकी इजाज़त हो तो।
बिल्कुल।
मैडम, कैसी हैं आप?
How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Thank you for having me today.
Okay.
और हमें बहुत ज़्यादा खुशी महसूस हो रही है जब गैर मुल्की मेहमान आते हैं और पाकिस्तान के हवाले से।
you and FM 99 team and he welcome you in this program.
Thank you.
तो बाकायदा इस प्रोग्राम का हम आगाज़ करते हैं। आशिक साहब, आपके पास सवालात मौजूद हैं।
बिल्कुल।
वक्तन फ़ौक्तन आप सवालात करते रहें और जवाब भी हम मैडम से लेते रहेंगे।
बिल्कुल। आज का जो प्रोग्राम है वो एक खातून है जिसका जो टाइटल है, थीम है, वो हमने रखा है इंस्पायरिंग लाइफ स्टोरी ऑफ अ वुमन। शी इज़ फ्रॉम यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स ऑफ अमेरिका। शी इज़ अ प्रोफेशनल क्लाइंबर, was entitled in the Guinness Book of World Record 2015. She has an inspirational story on how she defeated fear and has record of fastest woman to climb the 7 summits. Prior to the climbing profession, she was purely a businesswoman. She was featured in Forbes magazine. She is an MBA from Stanford Business School of USA. Her life story is inspiring, and today we have an opportunity to interview and know about her achievements, ideas for business entrepreneurship, and her experience here in Gilgit Baltistan. We welcome you in this program.
Okay, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Vanessa O'Brien, and this is my first time in Pakistan. I came this year to climb K2 and to take a look at Broad Peak as well. This was a tough year for mountain climbing. There were no summits on K2 this year and no summits so far on Broad Peak. And of course it's a very, very difficult mountain. K2, if we look, has over the past 13 years, since 1980 rather, there's been 13 years of no summits. So by no means are you guaranteed a summit of K2 when you come to try for the second highest mountain in the world, because of course it's the Savage Mountain. This is a tough mountain. And if we look at K2 versus Everest, there are 385 summits of K2 versus over 7,000 summits of Everest.
Wow.
So for every 22 summits of Everest, only one summit of K2.
Great.
So it's a very, very different mountain. But I am delighted to have been here and delighted to give it my best shot. It was a very, very tough season. As you mentioned, in 2015, I did enter the Guinness World Records, and that was for being the fastest female to climb the highest peak on every continent in the shortest period of time, and that was 295 days. And also the Explorers Grand Slam, which includes the highest peak and also the North and South Pole in 11 months.
Wow.
So that is also over a short period of time, because of course I only started climbing in 2010. So I have not been climbing very long, but I did a lot of climbing in a short period of time.
Great.
So as you mentioned, I did start in business. I think there's a lot of parallels in business and between business and climbing. I think in particular, if I look, there's a lot of parallels between, leadership, teamwork, logistics, planning, financing, even marketing, sponsorship, things like that, IT, telecommunications. All of those go into mountaineering. They also go into business. So I think both of those draw parallels. And you can capitalize on your business knowledge and take that into mountaineering. Of course, if I go back to the business side,
Okay.
It started really with probably starting working on my MBA and doing everything that I could to be successful in business. What took me into mountaineering was really the recession, and trying to do something different, something that was goal-oriented, something that would last 2 to 3 years. And somebody mentioned Everest, and that's when I thought, okay, that kind of ticked every box.
Great.
जी दोस्तों, आप सुन रहे हैं FM 99 गिलगित बल्तिस्तान स्कर्दू स्टूडियो की आवाज़। हमें बता रही थी हमारी ये मुअज़्ज़िज़ मेहमान कि इनका नाम भी जो किताब है गिनीज बुक ऑफ वर्ल्ड रिकॉर्ड, वहाँ पर इनका नाम दर्ज है। इसके अलावा इन्होंने बहुत सारी चोटियाँ भी सर की हुई हैं। एक बाहिम्मत खातून है, आप इसी से अंदाज़ा लगा सकते हैं। आशिक की तरफ मैं बढ़ता हूँ। आशिक साहब, इनकी ज़ाती ज़िंदगी के हवाले से हम जानना चाहेंगे। जो अगला सवाल है वो आप नाज़रीन को पहुँचाएँ और हमारी मेहमान को भी पहुँचाएँ।
Okay. Dear listeners, here we have the most, we can say that honorable guest, Vanessa, is here to tell the story of her life, and you all hopefully enjoying this interview. And now we are moving to move forward towards the next question, and that is about her life story. Means, would you like to share the story of your life, and what was the motivation to start career as a climber? Could you please share?
Yes, absolutely. So really, I had no intention to go into climbing. So for me, I was always focused on business, because that's what I went to school for. I was a student, as you mentioned in the beginning, at NYU. I had gone for my MBA, and I was working for mostly large corporations. I tried to take advantage of international assignments when I could, because I thought it was important to go out and experience the world. For me, that was London, England initially, and then later Hong Kong. But there were a couple of philosophies that came to me early, and one was really to work very, very hard, and whenever you had spare time, to offer to take on additional projects and to find better ways of doing things. Keeping things simple and having the self-confidence in knowing that you can be the best at what you do. And I worked for companies that encouraged those types of behaviors and philosophies, and they also rewarded that. So, one company put me through business school, which was a nice reward. And, I was able to look at the, bigger assignments, to receive those promotions and to find internal sponsors. So what I'd like to encourage people who are starting their careers is, take a look at the companies that offer some of those internship or programs that will train you, educate you, and help promote you for bigger and bigger assignments. And make sure that you work extra hard and prove yourself, and those sponsors will find you and promote you. Also take a look, at international assignments, if you can work abroad or work within international organizations, because there's a lot to learn. It's a big world. Companies operate differently around the world, and there's a lot to learn. So that's my sort of business stuff that I would like to pass on. For me, I was in London when the recession hit in 2010, and that's when I decided to leave banking and move with my other half to Hong Kong. And really, it was just looking for something, kind of goal-oriented, something that would last 2 to 3 years, which is how long I thought the recession would last, and something that was something I could measure success by. And that's when a friend asked me, what about Everest? And we laughed, because you would have to laugh. I had never climbed before. It seemed like an audacious thing to do. And I went away and I thought about it, and I started doing some research. And that's when I realized that the only thing I didn't know how to do was actually climb. So I thought, you know what, I could learn that. I can go learn what all this climbing equipment is. And I went down to New Zealand, which is closest to Hong Kong, and I took my first climbing course. So that's how the whole climbing thing started. And I like to look at it now as sort of climbing up and out of a recession as a metaphor, because that's, kind of a nice way to look at it, because you're physically going to the top, and also it's another metaphor to look at climbing a corporate ladder versus climbing a mountain. Either way, you're getting to the top and getting out. But climbing represented different challenges to me, but as I said in the beginning, I think there's a lot of parallels between the business world and mountaineering. And those are things like teamwork, they're things like leadership, and every single function you can find parallels to mountaineering.
Great.
जी दोस्तों, बात हो रही है हमारी मेहमान से, और मेहमान अपनी लाइफ स्टोरी के बारे में बता रही थी। दोस्तों, इकबाल ने इन्हीं नौजवानों के हवाले से और ऐसे हजरात के हवाले से कहा था कि पलट कर झपटना, झपट कर पलटना, लहू गर्म रखने का ये है बहाना। आशिक मेरे मोहतरम दोस्त आज मेरी मावनत कर रहे हैं। अनवर मसूद का एक शेर था कि मर्द होनी चाहिए, खातून होना चाहिए, अब ग्रामर का नया कानून होना चाहिए। इंग्लिश तुम्हारे वास्ते बहुत ज़रूरी है दोस्तों, फेल होने के लिए एक मजमून होना चाहिए। और इंतहाई मज़े के साथ आज आशिक हमारे दोस्त बैठे हुए सो मेरी इस मुश्किल को आसान कर रहे हैं। और जो इनकी गुफ्तगू है, बात में आशिक से मैं गुजारिश करूंगा कि उसे भी आप थोड़ी सी सलीस उर्दू में बयान करें, ताकि हमारे जितने भी लिसनर्स हैं वो हमें समझ सकें। जो हमारी मौजूद मेहमान हैं उनसे मैं ज़ाती तौर पर ये जानना चाहूँगा, आल्दो क्लाइंबिंग इनका शोबा है और ये पहाड़ चढ़ना इनको बहुत ज़्यादा पसंद है। इसके अलावा स्कर्दू में बहुत सारी खूबसूरत जगह लाइक शंग्रीला है, अपर कचूरा लेक है, शिगर है, खपुलो है, बहुत खूबसूरत देखने के लिए बहुत सारी जगह हैं। यकीनन उन्होंने वहाँ भी विजिट किया, वहाँ लोगों का बिहेवियर इनके साथ कैसा था?
Vanessa has a very inspiring story, and our audience are really will enjoy this story when it will be on air from FM 99. And Vanessa has traveled to this area, Gilgit-Baltistan, and now I would like to ask that what type of what sort of opportunities, particularly for youth in Baltistan region, she has noticed or observed, and she would like to share through this interview.
Okay, so just to confirm, you're saying opportunities for youth?
Yeah, what sort of opportunities, particularly for youth in adventure tourism, climbing, trekking, etc.
Okay.
Youth who want to start their career as a climber,
okay,
who want to join this industry, tourism is an industry.
Okay.
What type of opportunities they have?
Sure. So this industry for climbing and adventure tourism in Pakistan is really just starting.
Yeah.
The mountains here, certainly the 8,000 meter peaks, are very, very large. They're harder and more dangerous. So the mountains here attract very, very experienced climbers, really from around the world. They're here from Asia, they're here from Europe, they're here from the United States, from South America, everywhere. There are only 14 8,000 meter peaks in the world, and 5 of them are here in Pakistan.
Yeah.
So the Karakoram is a big part of what represents these 14 8,000 meter peaks. Now, adventure tourism, to make everything work, involves everything from logistics planning to transportation to a bit of hospitality, hotel, tourism. All of that is encompassed in making adventure tourism work. There are not that many companies involved in providing services. So first I would say there's just trekking at a basic level, and the whole Boltero region is absolutely gorgeous. So if anybody hasn't been to Skardu or hasn't been to see any of the mountains, even within Pakistan, they really should come to this part of the country, because it is beautiful to behold, and the mountains are absolutely glorious. I mean, it really is something to see. And Skardu is a beautiful part of the country. So one is there's internally there's a lot of people who could come just to trek and just see the beautiful glaciers, see the beautiful mountains. And these could be students, youths, any age really is able to trek. There are strenuous treks, there are medium and also very hard treks. I would not encourage people to get up and climb any 8,000 meter peak if they are not technically skilled. Please don't climb any 8,000 meter peaks unless you are a very experienced climber. These are dangerous mountains. Samina Beg said something once I thought was very clever, and she said that mountains are not fair or unfair, they are just dangerous. So please, whatever you do, just don't run up them and run down them, because there are crevasses, there are avalanches, and people can get lost very easily. But you can view them very easily from trekking. I encourage any youth and individual to go out and experience nature. So I find today with TV, video games, electronic devices, phones, internet, a lot of people spend too much time indoors, too much time texting, too much time viewing, and it's much more fun to go out and play games outdoors. Go see things, because there's so much to do and see outside. So in terms of developing businesses, I would say there's definitely room for more adventure tourism companies. There are only a handful, and to develop this into a much bigger contributor even to the economy here, really there needs to be more infrastructure. So that's planes, trains, automobiles, things like that. I know the Karakoram Highway is being built, and the infrastructure there. I know we could use some help with PIA and the airlines, because it's always full between ISB and Skardu, hard to get the flights. Some of the roads, you have to take the jeeps from here to Ascoli. That's often difficult to get the jeeps and the infrastructure there. But from there, the trekking is okay. I don't think that needs to be developed per se, because now you're on the glacier and that's nature. But some of the infrastructure, just between the cities, could be developed a little bit better, and I think that would help facilitate tourism. But it always starts with infrastructure, and that's everything from the roads, the construction, the flights, the water, the hotels. Here even in Skardu, there's not so many hotels. The Shangri-La is lovely, but here within the main part of the city, there's not so many that can take the tourists, with options. So lots of opportunity to develop.
जी दोस्तों, जैसे कि हमारी मोअज़्ज़िज़ मेहमान बता रही हैं कि स्कर्दू और ख़ास तौर पर गिलगित बल्तिस्तान सियाहत के हवाले से मालामाल खित्ता है। यहाँ पर बहुत कुछ किया जा सकता है, लेकिन कुछ मसाइल हैं। जिस तरह हमारी रोड मेंटेन नहीं है, गिलगित स्कर्दू रोड, इस रोड की वजह से सयाहों को काफ़ी जहनी और जिस्मानी तकलीफ़ का सामना करना पड़ता है। इसके अलावा मेन सिटीज़ में इतने खूबसूरत होटल्स नहीं है जहाँ पर सयाह रह सकें और उन्हें सहूलियात मुयसर नहीं आती हैं। इसके अलावा बहुत सारी चीज़ें हैं। अगर हम इन चीज़ों को डेवलप करें और प्रॉपरली रिसोर्सेज मैनेज करें, और हुकूमत इसके लिए अगर पॉलिसी अच्छी तरह से मुरतब करें, तो सयाहत एक बेहतरीन शोबा बन सकता है। इस बार आशिक साहब, ये काफ़ी हौसला अफजा बात है कि सयाहों की एक बड़ी तादाद में स्कर्दू का रुख किया है, और बताया जाता है कि इस बार रिकॉर्ड है, इतनी तादाद में सयाह यहाँ पर आए हैं। सो आपसे मैं चाहूँगा आप प्रोग्राम को आगे करें, उसके बाद हम मुख्तसर सी ब्रेक की तरफ चलते हैं।
ठीक है। Our honorable guest shared that there are a lot of opportunities for individuals and youth, particularly who are willing to develop their career in sectors like tourism, adventure tourism, climbing. And there are a lot of opportunities in logistics. They can work in transportation sector, work in hotel industry, and much more. Now we move towards the fourth question of this interview. What challenges you faced during visit to Pakistan, and particularly Gilgit-Baltistan? What were the major challenges you faced during your visit? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So I would say some things went really well, and some things were harder. It is easy to get here. So there are many planes, flights from everywhere in the world. So Emirates is a great airline to come here. Qatar Airlines. There are plenty of large international airlines that come into Pakistan on a regular basis to Islamabad. So easy to get here. Islamabad is a very first world developed city. It is, it may not represent the rest of the country, but people should know from if they're listening outside of the country that it's very developed. I was able to get off the plane, find my own way. There are taxis right outside the airport. And, I did not have to have my hair covered or, wear certain outfits or anything like this. It's a very metropolitan city. And it has very much large hotels. With brand names. It's got the Marriott, it's got the Radisson, it has Serena, which is a lovely hotel, and it's got a lot of guest houses and other hotels of all price points. So lots of choices. It is a big city on par with other large cities. I, of course, came during Ramadan, so you have to be cognizant of this. So certain things were closed during certain hours. That was a little bit unfortunate, but now I go back, it's not, and that's going to be great because I will see all the things I couldn't see the first time. So my first challenge was trying to get here to Skardu, because I think maybe we did not have the flight reservation we needed, and things went very fast, and suddenly I did have to take the Karakoram Highway. And
you turned to Karakoram Highway.
Yeah, I came on the Karakoram Highway, and it's maybe people should do this once. I don't know, but if I show on a Google map, there's a straight way that says sort of 7 hours, but they don't recommend that tourists take this. So you go the old traditional way, which is something like 22 hours. So and it's quite a bumpy road. Very scenic, though. This is where you'll see the three mountain ranges come together. So that's quite beautiful to see the Himalayas, the Karakoram, and the Indian one. And then you see Nangma Parbat, which you would not see if you did not come this way. So very scenic, but you do have to stop in Chilis. You do have to have some security board occasionally during certain spots, and it takes a long time and it's very bumpy. So very hot, So it's not the best way to come, even for the local person. You want to take the plane. So I know that there are a certain number of planes in the country. I think it's small, 35. Is that right? Something like this. And of course, demand is exceeding supply. So there are not enough planes to serve the population everywhere in the cities around Pakistan. So Skardu is one place that has a high demand. So that was the first challenge, is just the Karakoram Highway and not being able to get the flights here. And I faced the same thing coming back, of course, trying to get the flights back to Islamabad because, we sit in the PIA office with the reservation trying to get back. And of course, we should have had this, this interview tomorrow, and we're having it a bit early just so I could try to get the big Airbus tomorrow. So, that's just going to be one thing that has to work itself out until more planes are here or, a demand scheduling system is put in place. Let's see, second challenge is, the actual expedition was fine. I think as a mountaineer, you know what to expect when you are on you have a walk in. that usually takes 5 days no matter where you are, even on Everest, because you're acclimatizing. You have to build the red blood cells. You cannot just run up. You have to take it slow. Usually it's 300 meters a day, climb high, sleep low. But when you arrive, you're at base camp. This will be your home for 4 to 6 weeks. You have individual tents. There's a large mess tent where you have shared meals. And then from there you plan your ascent. So the expedition itself is fine. I think it's just really the logistics around the country that we talked about for just general improvement. But all of that is less important and made up by the people, because the people of Pakistan are just generally so kind. The hospitality that they extend, their sense of humor is lovely, and they're cheerful, fun. They have great family values, and I came here with one friend in London and ended up with 10 friends from there. Oh. So it's people. It's a networked society here. People have friends of friends, and you are introduced to friends of friends, and very quickly, suddenly your network has expanded. But everybody here is just so kind and funny and lovely and fun to be with. So all of that makes up for any infrastructure issues.
जी बहुत अच्छे। और जो हमारी मेहमान मोअज़्ज़िज़ मेहमान हमें बता रही थी कि यहाँ के लोग बहुत ज़्यादा मेहरबान, बहुत ज़्यादा चाहने वाले और दोस्तों के दोस्त हैं, और ये हमारे लिए बहुत है। अजीज़ दोस्तों, अगर हम अपनी हैसियत को समझें और अगर हम अपनी मकाम को समझें कि हम दोस्तों के दोस्त हैं, बहुत मेहरबान हैं, और मेहरबानियों का ये सिलसिला अगर इसी तरह जारी रहे तो वो दिन दूर नहीं जब पूरी दुनिया हम पर मेहरबान हो जाएगी। और मुश्किलात के हवाले से मुअज़्ज़िज़ मेहमान ने हमें बताया कि इस्लामाबाद से स्कर्दू आते वक्त इन्हें काफ़ी ज़हनी इज़्तिराब का सामना करना पड़ता है। बाई रोड जो सफ़र है वो मौत को दावत देने के मुतरादिफ है। सयाह बड़ी ज़हनी कोफ्त का शिकार होते हैं। जगह जगह पर रोड अक्सर ब्लॉक होती है और तरह तरह के रास्तों से गुजरना पड़ता है। एक आशिक साहब अगर ये कहें कि एक डरावनी रोड है बिल्कुल सयाहों के लिए, खासतौर पर जो पहली बार स्कर्दू आ रहे हैं उनके लिए ये रोड एक डरावने ड्रामे से कम नहीं है, और वो लोग दोबारा इस तरफ आने का सोच भी नहीं सकते। ज़रूरी है, हुकूमत से मेरा मुतालबा भी है, अवाम अन्नास का मुतालबा भी है कि वो इस रोड की तामीर जल्द अज जल्द मुकम्मल करा दें। आल दो प्राइम मिनिस्टर साहब ने वादा किया है गिलगित बल्तिस्तान की आवाम के साथ कि इस रोड की तामीर जल्द की जाएगी और इसे गांचे तक फैलाया जाएगा, और हमें उम्मीद है कि ये मरहला बहुत जल्दी तय होगा। दूसरी बात पीआईए के हवाले से की मुअज़्ज़िज़ मेहमान ने कि पीआईए के जो टिकट्स हैं वो इतनी आसानी से नहीं मिलते और सयाह अक्सर फंस कर रह जाते हैं। बहुत सारी बातें और भी हैं जो करनी है, वक्त हमारे पास बहुत है। एक ब्रेक की तरफ आपको लेके चलते हैं, ब्रेक के बाद वापस आएंगे तो मुअज़्ज़िज़ मेहमान से मज़ीद गुफ्तगू करेंगे। बहुत शुक्रिया। जी खुशामदीद दोस्तों, आप सुन रहे हैं FM 99 गिलगित बल्तिस्तान स्कर्दू स्टूडियो की आवाज़। मुझे कहते हैं मोहम्मद अली अंजुम, और आज मेरे साथ मावनत कर रहे हैं आशिक हुसैन साहब। आशिक हुसैन साहब बहुत शुक्रिया। हमारी जो मेहमान हैं इनसे गुफ्तगू का सिलसिला भी जारी रहेगा। सियाहत के हवाले से गुफ्तगू हो रही है। जिस तरह मेहमान हमें बता रही थी उन्हें आने में बड़ा मसला होता है और रोड्स यहाँ के काफ़ी ख़राब हैं, होटल्स यहाँ के काफ़ी ख़राब हैं। इसके अलावा लोगों के हवाले से उन्होंने कहा कि लोग यहाँ के बहुत अच्छे हैं, बहुत ज़्यादा मेहमान नवाज हैं, दोस्ताना हर किसी के साथ बिहेव करते हैं, दोस्तों के दोस्त हैं, यारों के यार हैं। इसी तरह बहुत सारे और भी मसाइल इनके साथ यकीनन होंगे। आप से मैं चाहूँगा हमारी मेहमान की तरफ मुअज़्ज़िज़ सामीन को लेके चलें, इनसे पूछें कि वहाँ और यहाँ में क्या फ़र्क है।
Okay, we hope that our listeners will enjoy this program later on when it will be on air from FM 99 Skardu. I would like to ask from my guest Vanessa, what is the difference between the two societies? Like, you are from a developed world, United States of America, of course, a developed society, and comparatively our world is developing, and still we are in a transition phase. What are the major differences you observed during your visit?
Hi, thank you. Okay, so maybe some differences. So here, one I guess is infrastructure. So we touched on. Okay, so let's talk about the differences, say, between where I might have flew from. I flew from Boston, Massachusetts, and came here to let's compare maybe Skardu, and they're very different. So in Boston, the roads are all paved, so they have there's cement. And they're very smooth, so people can get around very, very quickly. Everybody has, cars. They drive, and they park in their homes. Here, the roads are very, very bumpy. There's a lot of potholes, and even to go, say, from the middle of town to something like the Shangri-La, the cars will drive fast, and they have shock absorbers, and you'll bounce up and down. But the roads are very, very bumpy, and they need lots of improvement to get around. But also, people here, they use motorcycles more, bicycles more. Whenever there's a larger population per capita, I think that you find the vehicles will be smaller. And that could be motorcycles, they could be bicycles, they could be just anything motorized, but less bigger. So, but you still need to get from place to place. Let's see. So the internet, obviously the internet in a developed world is faster. It's both on the mobile, and you've got the computers. The computers now are handheld. They could be tablets, not necessarily PCs, but people probably have both or one of them certainly that they're checking all their email and doing their business on, internet banking or, their email or their Facebook to their friends or anything like this. Here, the libraries have physical books. In the States, somewhere like that, we're probably reading the Kindles and downloading digital books. And restaurants, people go out to eat a lot in Boston, so they're sitting on the street. It's very nice outside. The air is clean. It's not dusty, and they enjoy their food. But here it's because the roads still have some of the dirt, and they're not paved. A lot of the dust comes up, so you have to be careful if somebody comes whizzing by that you don't end up with a bunch of dirt coming towards you and coughing or something like this, because you couldn't really sit outside and eat. It wouldn't work here. And then there's difference, there's some livestock that people have here because they're still agricultural. So there's goats and cows and things that people use for milk. And, we would never have that in the city because everything that we have we're importing and is processed. So everything is just much more developed, and you're importing that and going to a big grocery store where you're going shopping and buying that in a grocery store. Exactly. But it doesn't make it always better. What you want to always make sure is that you hold on to the values. I was commenting the other day that I was at the Shangri-La, and they have villas there that are quite big, and the villas are big because the Pakistanis have larger families. And, it was very nice to see that the families were up, the children were playing, and, the lights were on, and they were all having fun in the yards or whatever. And so I think it's nice to see that the family units are intact. The children are always playing, they're having fun, whether they're down by the river or, just outside playing and stuff like that. So, developed or undeveloped, that's one thing, but you gotta keep the values intact and make sure that the people also are happy and have the right attitude.
जी दोस्तों, आप सुन रहे FM 99 की आवाज़। और आशिक ने बहुत अच्छा सवाल हमारी मेहमान की तरफ रख दिया था कि दोनों जो माशरे हैं, अमेरिका का जो माशरा है और स्कर्दू का माशरा है, इन दोनों में क्या फ़र्क है। तो फ़र्क साफ ज़ाहिर है। जिस तरह हमारी मुअज़्ज़िज़ मेहमान ने कहा कि इन्हें बहुत ज़्यादा खुशी हुई जब इन्होंने बड़े बड़े ख़ानदानों को साथ देखा, बच्चों को साथ खेलते हुए देखा। हमारी जो सोशल वैल्यूज़ हैं वो अभी तक बरकरार हैं, और हमारी दुआ है कि अल्लाह ताला से ये सोशल वैल्यूज़ हमेशा बरकरार रहे। और यही वैल्यूज़ हमारे माशरे की, हमारी सोसाइटी की खूबसूरती हैं, और इन्हें बचाने के लिए मुझे, आशिक को और रज़ा कसीर को, हम सबको मिल कर के अपना किरदार अदा करना होगा। दूसरी जो बात हुई, जो हमारी मुअज़्ज़िज़ मेहमान ने बताई, इंसानों में कोई फ़र्क नहीं है। यहाँ का इंसान भी बड़ा अच्छा है, वहाँ का इंसान भी बड़ा अच्छा है, लेकिन वहाँ का इंसान कुछ तेज़ तराज है, उस इंसान ने कुछ ज़्यादा तरक्की की है, और यहाँ का इंसान कुछ सुस्त रवि का शिकार है। अगर यहाँ का इंसान अपनी सुस्त रवि तर्क करे और तेज़ रफ्तारी अख्तियार करे तो यहाँ भी तरक्की हो सकती है। सफाई के फुकदान के हवाले से गुफ्तगू हुई। सफाई का निज़ाम यहाँ पर अच्छा नहीं है, अगर आशिक साहब मैं गलत नहीं समझा हूँ तो। अगर सफाई के इस निज़ाम को बेहतर करने की ज़रूरत है, और इसकी ज़िम्मेदारी मैं समझता हूँ हुकूमत है। अगर हुकूमत अच्छे वसाइल हमें प्रोवाइड करे, अच्छी सड़कें हमें बना कर दे, अच्छे होटल्स हमें बना कर दे, अच्छी सोसाइटीज़ हमें बना कर दे, तो ये सफाई का मसला भी हल हो सकता है। एजुकेशन के हवाले से मैं चाहूँगा बात हो, अब सोशल वैल्यूज़ की बात हो चुकी है, सफाई की बात हो चुकी है, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर की बात हो चुकी है। अब हम एजुकेशन की तरफ ज़रा बढ़ते हैं और इनसे एजुकेशन के हवाले से कोई सवाल करते हैं।
Okay, our guest thoroughly described the difference between the two societies. In both societies, means human beings in both societies are equal. There is no such difference, but differences are of social infrastructure. Differences related to you can say that normal mean systems are in our country, systems are still not developed. These are the minor differences, but as a human being, I think the feelings, emotions, values in both societies are equal. Okay, we are going to ask other question about my RJ is saying that we have to ask a question about the education. How can we improve our education system? Particularly in context of a developing world like countries like Pakistan and in Gilgit-Baltistan, what do you suggest? What should be done to improve the system?
Okay, so I think on the education, I don't know what system you follow today. Like, is it whether it's the more British system with the A&O levels?
British system, we mostly follow British system here.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay, British system. Okay, so.
And English is our medium of instruction. Medium of means you can say that normally in universities we learn English.
Yes.
The medium of instruction. Yeah.
Okay, so I quite like the British system. I'm a dual national, so I hold American and British passports, but I find that the British system is very, very good for the early education. When I look at or compare, say, an American early education to a British early education, I find that the Brits tend to excel a little bit faster than the Americans do. And I'm talking now more early education. Now, at the college level, you could argue that the American universities are as competitive or perhaps more competitive depending on the college. So, I think that's very, very good. But I would say certainly a good general education is good. Liberal arts, making sure that you start with a good rounded knowledge of everything. So your maths, your sciences, your languages, appreciation for literature, all of that early education is important. Until someone becomes old enough where they understand what they want to specialize in. There's no point in starting off with medicine if you have no interest in medicine, or law if you have no interest in law. These are things that can come later on. But you should have a basic understanding of civics or a political system. Yeah. So that needs to be taught to understand the differences. so basic foundation in education every child should have. And some systems have education that is provided free. Some systems have education that is paid for, private versus public, and those are sometimes different things. Where public is private, so I don't mean to confuse the listener. But I do believe every child has a right to education, and if it is an issue of affordability, that is where I think some of these online tools can be helpful.
Yeah.
There's really no excuse today for any child not to be able to have the education unless it's a function of where they live too far away, where distance is an issue. And I've seen this in some parts of places like the Amazon in South America, where the child just has to come like 50 miles or something to school, and that's impossible to do on a daily basis. They would just travel too much. It's too much, that is not possible. So there needs to be solutions for that, where within communities they can have an individual act as that teacher or sponsor. So that becomes more like home education, because it just is impossible for them to get to an education center. But every child should have the right to education. I think the online stuff is more accessible. Sponsors are great here. Large public-private organizations or private organizations that donate books, pencils, any sort of materials like this help as well. And until they start to want to get to the point where they want to specialize, and then providing a roadmap for that is important too, because we do need to keep our flow of professionals, and whether that be academics, whether that be doctors, lawyers, the medical experts, trained and within country.
Wow, great. You shared very great ideas, particularly you shared very good ideas to improve the education system. Particularly, you talk about the civic education, political education, to make the people more aware about the political system. And then you also talk about the basic education, right to education. Our constitution, the Constitution of Pakistan, stressed on right to education, Article 25A, that every child has a right to education, particularly primary education is compulsory. But still, there are challenges to implement this Right to Education Act as it is. Still hurdles are there. Okay, we are proceeding to the next question.
Sure.
The thing here in Baltistan you enjoyed most, could you share the thing that you enjoyed and you want to share with the audience?
Sure. So there's lots of surprises here in Pakistan, and I really encourage those who haven't been here to pay a visit. It is very, very surprising. One is how beautiful the country is, and how diverse the country is. So you come to a city like Islamabad, and there's just amazing culture and places to go. You could take a very, very popular restaurant like Tuscany for those who have been to Islamabad. I mean, it's lovely. It's got an outdoor courtyard, amazing food. It's always busy and buzzing, and it's just fun, and you see the livelihood of the local people enjoying their friends, and tables here are big. People don't dine with 2 people. They dine with 10 people. So when friends get together, they get together in large groups. So that's great to see. Also, I would say clothing. I really like the shalwar kameez, so I think this is a style of clothing that should be popular all around the world. And is it Kata? Is that the store?
Yeah.
Amazing. I could go in there and I want everything there. I want everything off the shelf. It's just, it's feminine. It's pretty. It's beautiful. It makes everyone look good, regardless of body type. And the colors are bright and cheerful. So the clothing is fantastic. And then, of course, when you go further afield, you have the nature, the country. I could snap a picture right out here, and you have beautiful trees and mountains, rivers flowing, waterfalls, and it's magnificent. The mangoes, the freshest fruit ever. Mangoes are so sweet. They don't taste like anything you've ever had anywhere in the world. And even skincare, the apricot kernel oil and stuff like this. Amazing skincare products. Products for your hair that keep the hair soft and supple and stuff. So I think there's lots of little secrets here that could benefit and be shared around the world. But there's lots of surprises actually, and I think I shouldn't divulge anymore. I should let people come here and discover them themselves.
Great.
जी आज के प्रोग्राम के आखिरी मराहिल की तरफ हम बढ़ते हैं। उससे केवल कोई मैसेज अगर देना चाहें हमारी मौजूद मेहमान तमाम सुनने वालों को, तो आप ज़रा उनसे मैसेज ले लें, फिर हम प्रोग्राम को वाइंड अप करते हैं।
बिल्कुल। प्रोग्राम ओके, द प्रोग्राम इज गोइंग टू बी कंक्लूडेड सून। Before this, I ask you that what are the thing that you enjoyed most, and that was means इन्होंने शलवार कमीज को बहुत पसंद किया, और फिर जो हमारे आबशार है और जो एप्रिकॉट खुबानी है हमारे, और फिर खुबानी के अलावा जो एप्रिकॉट आयल है स्किन केयर के लिए जो उसकी जो पर्टिकुलर जो उसकी ऐसी चीज़ों को इन्होंने बहुत ज़्यादा इंजॉय किया। और ये हमारे यहाँ ज़रूरत इस बात की है कि इसके ऊपर मज़ीद काम किया जाए, और इट इज़ रिक्वायर्ड टू डेवलप दिस एज एन इंडस्ट्री, एप्रिकॉट ऑयल एंड अदर थिंग्स, so we can benefit or profit from these indigenous products. Now we are going to conclude the program. Vanessa, any message for the people of Gilgit-Baltistan, particularly for women, because I think that you are role model for women, and you as a climber, professional climber working in this industry, and apart from this you are a businesswoman, you had a business, and means you have great achievement, and your story is very inspiring. So I would like to know that if you have any message for the women of Gilgit-Baltistan, then please.
Okay, thank you. So, when I think about women and female empowerment and all of that, I think it is important that women express themselves, but by no means would I consider myself a feminist or anything like this. I think about some of the great female leaders, and I think about somebody like Eleanor Roosevelt, who was a former First Lady. She said something way back when, and she said, do one thing every day that scares you. And a modern equivalent of that would be, what would you do if you weren't afraid? And it's an interesting question. For me, I asked myself that question when the topic of climbing Everest came up. Because I had to face, all sorts of fears about, changing industries, so to speak, from banking to climbing, learning something new that I didn't know anything about, facing all sorts of fears. Fears are interesting. Funny enough, if you name the highest fears, it's fear of public speaking, fear of heights, fear of insects, fear of death, things like this. Climbing hits a lot of those. But I would encourage women to face whatever fears that they have that might be holding themselves back, and think about trying different things. For me, I knew nothing about climbing, but went out and said, you know what, I'm gonna learn how to do that. The worst thing that can happen is I'm no good at it, I don't like it, or I just I don't get it. It's not working for me. But the worst thing that can happen is if you try something new is that you can revert back. Whatever you accumulate in life, all the knowledge, experience, everything that you have ever done stays with you. So if you try something new, you can always go back. You always have those same skills and experience. So I would just encourage women to try new things, to get out there and don't be shy. Ask and try things. And also, I would encourage the men who care about their women to stand up for them. United Nations Women had a great campaign, the He for She campaign, here in Pakistan. So it starts with men too. So men who care about their mothers, their wives, their sisters, let them know. Encourage them to speak up. Encourage them to try different things. Encourage them to be educated, and give them confidence, because what women need most is confidence. Once they have confidence, it's amazing what they can achieve.
जी दोस्तों, आप सुन रहे हैं FM 99 गिलगित बल्तिस्तान स्कर्दू स्टूडियो की आवाज़। मोहम्मद अली अंजुम आपसे मुखातिब थे खुसूसी प्रोग्राम के साथ, और आज हमारे हमरा एक मशहूर कोह पैमा जिन्होंने पूरी दुनिया में अपनी सलाहियतों का लोहा मनवाया हमारे हमरा मौजूद हैं। अब प्रोग्राम के आखिरी मराइल है जनाब, और एक शेर मुझे याद आ रहा है, अपनी मट्टी पे ही चलने का सलीका सीखो, संग मरमर पे चलोगे तो फिसल जाओगे। शलवार कमीज़ हम सब पहनते हैं यकीनन, और रज़ा कसीर हमारे बहुत ज़्यादा शलवार कमीज़ पहनते हैं। शलवार कमीज़ पहनना आप हकारत की अलामत बनता जा रहा है, लेकिन आप देख सकते हैं एक फॉरेनर खातून जो बाहर से आई हैं, वो शलवार कमीज़ पर कितना फ़ख्र महसूस कर रही हैं और इसे कितना बेहतरीन लिबास करार दे रही हैं। दोस्तों, हमेशा यही होता है कि हम घर की मुर्गी को दाल के बराबर मुतरादिफ करते हैं, दाल के बराबर समझते हैं। अगर हम घर की मुर्गी की कदर करना शुरू कर दें तो हमारी मुर्गियों की वैल्यू बढ़ जाएगी। मतलब कहने का ये है, हमारी अपनी अक़दार की वैल्यू बढ़ जाएगी, हमारी सकाफ़त की वैल्यू बढ़ जाएगी, हमारे अक़दार की वैल्यू बढ़ जाएगी। और वो कौमें तनज़ुली का शिकार होती हैं जो अपनी तहज़ीब और सकाफ़त की हिफाजत नहीं करती हैं, जो अपनी तहज़ीब और सकाफ़त को खाते में नहीं लाती हैं। आप सब जानते हैं, तारीख़ शाहिद है, वो कौमें तरक्की कर गई हैं जिन्होंने अपनी तहज़ीब और सकाफ़त को सीने से लगाए रखा और हमेशा अपनी तहज़ीब और सकाफ़त का प्रचार किया। आज हम अपनी तहज़ीब और सकाफ़त छोड़कर गैरों की तहज़ीब और सकाफ़त के प्रचार में लगे हुए हैं, और गैरों की सकाफ़त की ये यलगार हमारी सकाफ़त को दफन कर रही है। एक खूबसूरत बात हमारे मेहमान ने की, उन्होंने कहा कि मर्द होना कोई बड़ी बात नहीं है, अच्छे मर्द वो होते हैं जो मर्द होते हुए भी ख़वातीन की कदर करें और ख़वातीन के हकूक़ के लिए आवाज़ बुलंद करें। और जाते जाते यही पैगाम दूंगा कि हम माएँ, हम बहनें, हम बेटियाँ, कौमों की इज़्ज़त हमसे है। अगर आप मर्द हैं तो अपनी बहनों का, अपनी माँओं का और अपने वतन का ढेर सारा ख्याल रखिए। मोहम्मद अली अंजुम और स्टूडियो इंजीनियर रज़ा कसीर, मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर सईद मोहम्मद अब्बास और अपने को होस्ट आशिक हुसैन को इजाज़त दीजिए। ज़िंदगी रही तो दोबारा ज़रूर मुलाकात होगी। अल्लाह हाफ़िज़ नासिर।